but I want to show you 4 ways that the work of Moses reveals God's plan. Number 1, there's always a judgment for disobedience. We're just going to start light. There is always a judgment for disobedience. This is what this story shows us. Look at Exodus 12, verse 7. We just read it, but it says, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and on all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments." Everybody say judgments. I am the Lord. Now, I'm not going to act like this is an easy or normal verse to read, okay? This is a difficult verse to read. But I want you to hear me. Pharaoh and the people of Egypt had disobeyed God again and again and again and again. They were selfish, idolatrous. They just worshiped all these other gods. They had oppressed another people group, and God had given opportunity and opportunity and opportunity for them to follow his ways, and they disobeyed. And scripture is very clear that there is judgment for disobedience, and I need y'all to hear me. There is a narrative, there is a story, there is a message on the earth right now that is trying to tell you that there is no judgment. No judgment, no judgment. That there's no punishment, that God, listen, God does indeed love all of us, but because God is just, he must stay true to who he is. And because he is just, there must be a judgment for disobedience to sin. Does that make sense? I love you, so I am telling you that there must be a judgment for disobedience because God is just. But not only that, thank God that he's not just, he is also good. Because with the declaration of judgment, Moses also tells people, but, he's gonna provide a way for us to get out of the judgment. So number 2, that Moses reveals the plan of God is that a lamb had to die so the people could live. Mary had a little lamb till she didn't. You know what I mean? Just making sure y'all are listening. It was awful. This is what happened. Look at Exodus 12, verse 6 and 21. It's not going to come up on the screen, but both show us that God made a way for the Israelites to get out of judgment, and the decree was you need to kill a lamb, a spotless lamb, and that will stand in the place of your death. So the angel of death was coming, judgment was coming, but God said, if you kill a lamb, that will stand in the place of your judgment. And this is something you'll see all throughout scripture, that something has to die so that someone else can live. So even this is all the way back. Y'all remember Adam and Eve in Genesis? They sinned, they disobeyed God. And then it says that after their sin that God made coverings of clothes for them from an animal skin. How do you do that? He killed an animal and made skins for them so that it would cover their sin and shame. It's the same thing that's happening here. So a lamb had to die so that they could live. But the lamb couldn't just die. Number 3, the blood had to be applied in order to save. They couldn't just kill the lamb. They had to take the blood and apply it to the doorposts as a sign. Scripture says the blood will serve as a sign that you are covered and I will pass over you. So I want everybody, before I do this, I want you to say after me, that's paint. Okay, just to be very clear, this is not blood, this is paint. Okay, this is a trigger warning. Not blood. Paint. One more time, everybody say, that's paint. That's paint. That sounded like an infomercial, like, welcome to, never mind. Okay. So not only, look at me, did they have to kill the lamb, they then had to take the, also, is this not the biggest, now they took branches of hyssop. I didn't have any of those. So just imagine this is a hyssop branch. I know y'all all are very familiar with what hyssop branches look like. So for all you know, this is a hyssop branch. So hyssop branch. They were to take the hyssop branch, dip it in the blood paint, and they were to apply it to the 2 doorposts. No. Somebody said, make it even. I'm helping you. Perfection, God doesn't require perfection, just obedience. You know what I mean? So they were to take it, look at me, put it on the doorposts, the 2 doorposts, and apparently this is called a lintel, not a beam, the top doorpost. And look, the blood covering their home, covering themselves, served as a sign, this house is covered, death must pass over it. Y'all get me? Remember, that's pain. Okay. So the blood had to be applied. No blood, no passing over. But then we keep going to number 4. The obedience of the Israelites led to their freedom. I don't know what to do with this paintbrush because it's got paint all over it, so I'm just gonna hold it. Like, why is she still holding that? I want to put it in the bowl, and there's paint everywhere, put it on the table, so I'm just gonna hold it. The obedience of the Israelites led to their freedom. I had a whole scripture here I was gonna read, but I'm not gonna read it. I'm just to tell you this. The end of Exodus 12, it says, so the Israelites went and did so. They heard the decree of Moses, hey, a judgment is coming for disobedience. They heard you gotta kill a lamb, they killed a lamb. They heard you ain't just gotta kill a lamb, you gotta put the blood, paint, over the doorposts so that death will pass over you. And because of this, Pharaoh wakes up the next morning, and just as God said it would, judgment was served, and he said, please go, freedom is yours. So the Israelites got up and they walked toward freedom. Moses, who had given the decree of freedom, had given the instructions to freedom, now got to lead them to freedom.